These are the so-called black leaders. These are the people that tell you to vote with no agenda.
We shall overcome someday.
Why is it that in 2022 we are still copying the same agendas or the same ways that our ancestors did back in the 1960s? Why are we still singing these same old tired "we shall overcome" songs? Why are we even having these people as our so-called leaders? The last time I checked, these so-called leaders, you never see them in the so-called black community. And the reason why I say it's a so-called black community, because none of these political figures, black political figures I may add, they do not own, control, nor operate the political, economic, social, and educational factors of your so-called community. They're holding hands, rocking side to side, as if they're at a protest or a rally. These are the same pundits who will stand behind Black Lives Matter, while at the same time having no end game in sight as to formulate a solution that will help solve the majority of so-called black people's problems. These are your leaders. These are the people that you shed crocodile tears for and elect them in office time and time again. Now, I'm not an advocate for fixing and solving the United Snakes government. I'm not an advocate for that at all. But since I am a race first guy, I would insist to black people who still want to participate in this system, you may want to get those old and wrinkled house Negroes out of office. Their time is come and gone. They have not solved any issues that are plaguing black people in these neighborhoods the most. Crime is still rampant amongst us. Pregnancies are still rampant. The delinquency in both young black men and young black women are at an all-time high. And social media just made it worse, because now these ladies can twerk freely on the internet without no discretion, while at the same time creating OnlyFans pages. And you got these young men and older men at that who voluntarily throw their own money away just for some type of sexual satisfaction or validation, just to see the bodies of these women. So-called black leaders don't address the ongoing gang issue. The ongoing gang issue, this has been going on since the civil rights era. During the civil rights era of the 1960s, there were gangs, especially in Chicago. But Fred Hampton, he was willing to work with the Vice Lords, the Black Peace Stones, and the Disciples.
Acting like pigs, is acting like people, and moving on pigs. And that's what we've got to do. So we're going to see about it, regardless of what these people think we should do. Because school is not important, and work is not important. Nothing's more important than stopping fascism.
He was able to formulate peace treaties or truces with the gang. In fact, the Vice Lords on the west side, they had a teen town where they were embracing their African heritage. They were attempting to clean up their own neighborhood. Jeff Fort and the Black Peace Stones in Woodlawn, they were able to get a grant up to $1 million for the Woodlawn Foundation that would help get kids off the street and help them get, educational rights to work city or state jobs. And we all know what happened to those movements, right? But since the 1970s, your elected officials have done nothing to help curb the violence, the poverty, the unemployment. They have not created programs that fight against drug addiction, alcoholism, sex trafficking, domestic violence. Your so-called enemy got to do that in order to not look bad in the eyes of the rest of the world. These black leaders ain't forming no type of solidarity with their own people. Instead, they locking hands with these whites and these Jews. But these liberals forever keep you at the bottom.
Let me ask you a question. Does anybody in here consider themselves free? Free. You are not free until every black man in America is free. This is the thing people don't realize. Sure, you might verbally, you might be free, but until you're grown.
Nobody's free. White people aren't free either. You have white people in the ghettos.
We're not talking about white people in the ghettos or in Appalachia. We're talking about our people.
These liberals ain't giving you the type of power that they possess. They own shit. They own Hollywood. They own the government. They own business. They own finance. They own all these banks that you put your money in. But the moment you put your money in the bank, they take your money, finance it out to another rich, mainly white businessman owner or company, while collecting interest rates on your money. And you know who allows them to get away with this? Your black political figures. Because they get kickbacks off of it. This is America. And this is how capitalism works. Capitalism goes hand in hand with greed and corruption. And many of your black elected officials that you keep in office for 20, 30, 40 years play a huge role in that corruption. How you got congressmen being in office for 30, 40 years in the districts that they represent have dilapidated housing, totally impoverished, crime is rampant, drug abuse is through the roof, and then they're also participating in gentrifying those so-called black neighborhoods. You tell me how in the hell these political figures are on your side? What are they going to really do for you that's going to make a huge difference in your either empowerment or liberation? Malcolm X said it best back in 1964.
Anytime you put a political party ahead of the interests of your own people, you're not only a chump, you're a traitor to your race.
And these elected officials, they damn sure ain't practicing no race first, man. They all about that moolah, that money. When they get some paper, man, I'm telling you, they not gonna do nothing for you. They're not gonna do nothing for black people in general. And forget about trying to build up and clean up the community. They're not interested in that. America's not interested in solving black people's problems. America as a whole is not interested in helping black people. Black people themselves have to stop relying on the government and these black elected officials to be the aid to your problems. They would never come to your rescue. They would never do anything worthwhile that's gonna help you in your salvation.
I never heard of a sit-in revolution. The only type of revolutions I've known about or read about have been bloody revolutions. Examples are the Russian Revolution, or the Revolutionary War, where one man said, "Give me liberty."
They say if the majority of black folk voted for them. As soon as they get their little office, the things they said they were gonna do for you, they already done broke about 10 of them. Why even believe in politicians that lie all the time just to get in office? There's certain black elected officials in Chicago that been in for too long. Aldermen in certain wards in Chicago where they're trying to run black folks out of them neighborhoods and bring you know who into those communities. Because the ultimate goal is to get your black asses out of these big cities and allow these white folk and some Mexicans to come into these big cities and completely own it the way they want to. That's the ultimate goal. And these black elected officials are playing a huge role into ensuring that that process takes place. This is why these elected officials, they'll lock arms in harmony with the enemy, saying we shall overcome. But the only thing they overcoming is their own personal situation. They ain't had that much money coming in the office. Hell, a lot of them was really able to raise funds to finance their own political campaigns. So now as soon as they get in office, they taking kickbacks, They making backdoor deals. They signing off contracts to people. You know, there's a huge thing going on in Chicago right now where the talk of casinos may come to Chicago, and they're trying to place it in large, populated black neighborhoods. But are they really going to do something for black people? If they had it their way, black people will be gone from them neighborhoods. And you know who's going to sign off on these contracts if they were able to fully manifest? Your black elected officials. Because that's what they do. As long as they get something out of the deal, they don't care if they're hurting or ruining their own people's livelihood just to enrich themselves. In conclusion, these black elected officials do not represent you. They do not hold your best interest at heart. Politics works like this. You got an agenda you want to be enforced. You find a potential elected official that's going to represent your interest. You got the money, you got the votes, you got the resources. You elect that official. As soon as that candidate gets elected, you keep your foot on his neck by making sure that he carries out your agenda. That's how politics works in this country. That's how politics works all across the board. But these elected officials, they not gonna do that for you, fam. Why? Black people still holding on to this old strategy of heal black men, heal black women, let's just get them in there. Politics don't work like that. And until black folks as a whole start fully realizing the true agenda behind these elected officials and what they really have in place, then black people are going to continue to remain at the bottom. But until we come together, accomplishing what we will in solidarity by doing things for ourselves, the way that Marcus Garvey taught us, the way that Elijah Muhammad built, the way that Malcolm X always emphasized, and black people as a whole will continue to remain at the bottom. And these elected officials are going to continue to overshadow the progress that grassroots level people like myself are making, simply because we don't want to hold these politicians accountable. Hope y'all got something out of this, but these are not your leaders, and they not gonna do a damn thing for you, bro. Keeping it a buck. 100.
Instead of you and me running around here seeking allies in our struggle for freedom, in the Irish neighborhood or the Jewish neighborhood or the Italian neighborhood, we need to seek some allies among people who look something like we do. And once we get their allies, it's time out for you and me to stop running away from the wolf right into the arms of the fox, looking for some kind of help.